I've been looking at the Weather Channel. Here in about probably about a week, I'll be able to get back out on my field and fertilize the grass, and I'll have the grass growing again within probably about a week or two. And right now it's going okay because I had so much feed put away in storage, and it's old feed. It's been in storage for over a year, and I've been looking to feed it. And I always told, well, okay, but I'm not, I actually think I did the right thing. I bought the feed in advance. I bought the feed very early, and I believe that I did the right thing. Even though the feed has been sitting in storage for a year, it's been sitting in storage for about a year right now. I didn't know that it was, it was going to be a very warm winter. I didn't know we were going to get a whole bunch of rain in the winter, right? I didn't know that stuff. And so I believe that I still did the right thing, and I will continue to do that. If I run out of feed, I will just put more feed away in storage. Probably, I've been thinking about it, and I was like, during the summertime when people are cutting hay, so when it gets real hot and dry, right when it starts to get hot and dry and the ground starts drying up, that's when people cut hay. Because if they leave their hay out there for too long, it's just gonna fry up in the sun. And so when it starts to get real hot and dry, and that's when a lot of people cut hay. And when a lot of people cut hay, there's a lot of inventory on the market, and so it's a very opportunistic time to find a below market average deal. And so here, when it starts getting hot in about 2 months, I will be looking for some feed supplies. I don't exactly know what I'm gonna find. I'm probably gonna look for some kind of a soybean or some kind of a alfalfa. But alfalfa in my area is very expensive. Soybean is a lot cheaper. Like less than half the price. People don't really grow alfalfa around here because alfalfa, you need a lot of water. And it's just too hot in this area to grow alfalfa. And so a lot of people, alfalfa in this area is very expensive. And also, I have, from my understanding, alfalfa that is grown in higher altitudes is considered to be better alfalfa. And over here in Texas, we're not at a higher altitude. We're just kind of sea level or so. And so, but we do get a lot of soybean. And every once in a while, somebody will have a dairy quality hay. About an hour and a half away from me is the dairy capital of Texas. The dairy capital of Texas is about 2 hours away from me. They got a lot of dairies up there. But if I drive about 2 hours away, they got a lot of dairies. It's the dairy capital of Texas. And these dairy guys, they grow a very good quality hay because they need it. They need the good quality hay because the good quality hay is what they need for the animal to produce good milk. If you have a mama cow, I highly suggest that you go and watch these dairy guys. These dairy guys, they understand how to take care of a mama cow like to a T. It's like when they're at this stage of pregnancy, you feed them this ration. And when they've given birth, the first 3 weeks, you give them this ration, and then and then et cetera, et cetera. The dairy guys are very, very good at raising mama cows. So if you really want to know how to raise a mama cow, don't watch a beef guy like me. If you watch a beef guy like me, I got the things that I'm good at, but I'm just gonna say the mama cow, the dairy people know how to do that the best. And so. Here in about 2 weeks, I'll have some good grass. These animals they're doing good. Ever since I put them back on the creep pellet, I've already seen them plump up again. Because here's the thing, I've already said this repeatedly in the past, but if your animals are real full, you'll actually be able to see them their bellies will actually swell up. Like they will visibly swell up because these animals, they eat about 3 to 3.5% of their body weight a day in dry matter, about 3.25% of their body weight a day in dry matter. And you got to think about that. If I have and that's per day. And it takes them about 3 to 5 days to digest their food. If they have a decently digestible feed, it takes about 2 to 5 days. And so you got to understand, like if I have a 500-pound animal, this animal is going to eat about 20 pounds of feed a day, considering that the feed is about 10% moisture. And if they eat 10 pounds, or if they eat 20 pounds of feed a day and it takes them 3 days to digest their feed, they're gonna have 60 pounds of feed sitting in their gut. And so, they will visibly, you can actually see them swell up when they're eating correctly. You don't want to see them swell up too bad, because if they're swelling up too bad, that could be gas. And if they have a lot of gas, you need to do something about that. And that's also one of the big reasons why I take a look at my animals so thoroughly twice a day, because I'm checking them for gas. You know, I don't want them swelling up real bad. And so today, my big thing, actually, the big thing that I wanted to talk to you about today, about y'all on YouTube today, was structuring a real estate deal. So when it comes to structuring a real estate deal, okay, well, I'm gonna start off with this. If you, if you just take a look around, once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And if you just go on the internet and you look it up, this is a lot of people understand this, but 60 to 70% of all the people in America do not even have $1,000 in their bank account, right? 60 to 70% don't even have $1,000 in their bank account. They just don't have it. And so, once you see it, you cannot unsee it. A lot of people are devastatingly poor in the richest country on the planet. There is legitimately gold everywhere. You can, like me, I make like $60,000 a year running cattle in my backyard. There is money all over the place. This country is legitimately a gold mine, and people are still devastatingly poor, right? I mean, that's not good. And so, 60 to 70% of all the people in this country don't even have $1,000 in their banking account, in their savings account. Not even $1,000, right? And once you see it, I mean, you begin to understand why I am so adamant. Like, why am I so adamant about okay, because here's the thing, right? And this is something that I've said before. You always want, choose a rich person. I'm not saying you have to go and learn from me, but choose a rich person, right? I mean, choose somebody who has an excess amount of money, and you say, oh, this person's actually a decent person. Let me go and see what they're doing. Do not go and, fiddle around with poor people, right? I mean, if you fiddle around with poor people, you got to understand they are poor for a reason, right? And they will poor people are like borderline desperate. They don't want to be poor, and they are borderline desperate, right? I mean, who wants to be poor? Nobody chooses. If you choose to be poor, that's somewhere, that's not good, right? I mean, they are borderline desperate. I mean, it's not good, right? And I'm just saying this like, I'm not getting a kick out of it. Like, I don't enjoy saying it. But me, okay, here's the thing. If I actually went out of my way and I said, you know what, I'm not going to work on my farm anymore. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go and help somebody. And, instead of working on my farm, instead of working on my business plan, I think I can help 5 people a year, right? I think I can help 5 people a year. Why would I do that, right? If these people are poor, they're not even going to want to pay, right? I mean, if they were offering me $50,000 each, then that would be different, right? Sure, I will help you for 1 year, and I can help 5 people, and I can make $250,000. But if they're going to offer me some nonsensical amount of money, oh my God, please come and plant grass for me. I will give you $5,000 if you plant 10 acres of grass for me. Why would I do that? That's ridiculous. I mean, why would I do that, right? I mean, if I legitimately plant grass on my 10 acres, I can make over $60,000 a year. Why would I go out of my way to lose money, right? And so, I mean, it's like if someone came up to me and they were like, I got 10 acres of grass, and and they've actually thought about what they were doing, and they were like, if I give him a $30,000 check and he plants my grass for me and I run the business, even if I only do half of what he's doing, then I can make my money back, right? This is what is actually going through this is what I think about. This is how I think. This, and for whatever it is, at least I'm being honest with you, right? At least I'm being honest with y'all. And that's the thing about, if there are 500 of you or whatever watching this video, 70% of you probably don't even have $1,000 in your bank account. Oh, you are a massive pile of problems. I mean, a majority of you are a massive pile of problems that cannot be saved under any circumstance. And I'm not saying that to, kick you while you're down. I'm just saying, I always say being poor is like being on drugs, right? If you're on drugs, maybe it's a good idea to recognize that to admit to yourself that you are on drugs, right? Because if you admit to yourself that you're on drugs, then now you got an opportunity to do better for yourself. You're gonna say, you know what, tomorrow, today I smoked this much drugs, or I injected this much drugs. Tomorrow I'm gonna do a little bit less drugs, and then the next day I'm gonna do a little bit less drugs, and in 2 weeks I'm gonna stop doing drugs altogether. Or you can go and you can put yourself in But this is also what I mean by, you know, if you turned on a dime tomorrow, it would be a miracle. It would not be average. And consider it like a drug addict, right? Because a drug addict, like if you're poor, and I always say poor people are the worst gaslighters on the entire planet. And if you talk to a poor person, you will know what I mean. You know, listen to what they say. Oh my God, you know what's important. You know what's important. What's important to me is that I go on my vacation next week, right? Oh, what's important to me is that oh my God, rich people are bad. Oh my God, money's not good. Oh my God, and then they're gonna sit there and they're gonna go, oh my God, how am I gonna budget my last $20? Oh my God, I got this last $20 and I get paid in 2 weeks, and I need to make this. I need to figure out what I'm gonna do with this $20. And then poor people. But here's the thing, is that society, in terms of a societal norm, it is not seen as it is, but maybe if I make it if I make it like a apparent to y'all, and this is what I mean by once you see it, you can't unsee it. But once it becomes something that you actually see and you actually go, oh my God, like this is actually happening, maybe it will start to put you on the right path, right? Because if you're on drugs, it's seen by people as something that is bad, right? It's seen as something as that is bad. But here's the thing, and I always say being poor is like being on drugs, right? And if you're poor, if you are sitting there in a room with your last $20, right? You're sitting there in a room with your last $20 and you're going, oh man, if I do A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, then it's going to turn into, if I do A, B, C, then it will turn into X, Y, Z, right? If that is you, if I have this last $20 and if I do this and I do that and I do this and I do that, then I'll have 15 cents left over in my bank account and then I'll get paid. If that is you, that is very bad behavior. Very bad behavior. That is like the equivalent of you being on drugs. That is how bad that is. You don't want to be like that. Here's the thing. It's like you are using your mental energy to come up with this moronic plan. You are using you are essentially using your brain to come up with this moronic plan of how if you do ABC, then it's going to turn into XYZ. When in reality, if you had, instead of budgeting your last $20, if you just said, you know what, I'm going to go and make myself an extra $20, that would have made more sense. Right? An extra $20 a day is like $600 a month. If you said, you know what, instead of me sitting here and scraping this last $20 out of my bank account, maybe I'm going to go and figure out how am I going to make $600 a month. Go the opposite direction. You're going 180 degrees in the wrong way. Right, and you're going to hear me say this all the time. A lot of you are going 180 degrees in the wrong direction. There is no island of gold. You have to start mining the gold from the walls around you. And I know that it may seem difficult at first. It may seem almost impossible at first, right? And it's going to seem almost impossible. And this is also what I mean by if you actually want to get to this point, like if like you see me farming and you go, oh my God, he's making such a boatload of money. And I can essentially, I make so much money that I can essentially do whatever I want, right? I mean, and I'm going to show you how I go through a real estate deal and how am I structuring this real estate deal and the things that are going through my mind. And I'm just going to be straight up honest with y'all. Because here's the thing, it's like, as long as I continue to run cattle, and as long as I, as long as I don't, go and do a bunch of drugs or something, as long as what I call kicking yourself in the dick type behavior, as long as I don't do anything like that, within a reasonable margin, I can do whatever I want, as long as I'm running cattle, right? Like, as long as, if I woke up tomorrow and I said, you know what, I want to go and buy myself a new truck. I want to go and buy myself a new truck. So you know how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to sell all my cattle today. And instead of running cattle, I'm just going to go and buy myself a nice truck. Kicking yourself in the dick, right? I mean, that's what I call kicking yourself in the dick type behavior. But it's not just a truck. I mean, okay, but here's the thing about money, right? I've always said if you want to spend money, the time that you spend money is if you, okay, here's, and I'm not saying that all of you have to be, because here's the thing, okay? I'm not saying that everybody needs to become a farmer. Everybody does not need to become a farmer. Everybody, okay, here's the thing. On the top end of the economic chain, almost everybody is doing the exact same thing. It does not matter if you're farming. It does not matter if you're in commercial real estate. It does not matter if you're in residential real estate. It doesn't matter if you're in retail. It doesn't matter if you're in whatever. You could be in whatever business, the service industry. Everybody's doing exactly, more or less the exact same thing, right? They're using cash flow to cover their debt service. and then they are, deducting. Okay, I'll put this in a more realistic. I'll use a realistic example. Let's say instead of farming, let's say I want to go into the commercial real estate business. Let's say instead of farming, I want to go into the commercial real estate business. So I take a look at a piece of property, and I say, you know what, I want to buy this property. I think that I have the potential to make myself a very good amount of money on this property. I believe that if this property was put under my hands, or if this property was put in my hands, that I would make a lot of money, right? And so I show up to the property. And I buy let's say I do exactly what I'm doing right now, right? I go up to the owner and I say, I want a 1-year option contract. I want a 1-year option contract. How much do you want me to pay for that contract, right? How much do you want me to pay you? How much do you want? Just give me your number. And they give you the number and you say, okay, that's fine, right? I mean, as long as it is reasonable, like 5% of the listing price, right? Let's say you got a $1 million building and they say, okay, if you put up 50 grand, I'll give you your 1-year option contract. And you say, okay, that's perfectly fine. I'll give you the 50 grand. I'll write you the 50 grand check, because the 50 grand check is negligible to me, right? I mean, I genuinely believe that I can make a large amount of money on this property. I have a reasonable belief. I have a reasonable reason to see why I would make such a large amount of money on this building. And so I give you the 50 grand, right? And then I take the property. I get the property under option contract, and then I actually do what I do, right? And then I make a lot of money. And when I make a lot of money during that 1-year time period, or let's say you make it for 15 months, right? And during that 1-year time period, you make a boatload of money. And you go back to the bank and you say, hey, hey, banker, I have this property right now that I had an option contract under, and I made a boatload of money on this property. I thought I was going to make a lot of money, and I did make a lot of money. I made a boatload of money, right? I made a boatload of money. Here's the money that I made. Will you fund my building for me? Sure, why not? I mean, that is how you get the money, right? That's how you would do the commercial real estate deal. And if you listen to me talk about farming, you're gonna and you're gonna understand that I do the exact same thing, right? But for commercial real estate, it's like, let's say you go and you take a look at a big building and you say, you know what, this building's doing real good. It's practically new. I mean, there's a lot of foot traffic, people making a lot of money over here. There's a lot of good shops over here, but they have an empty store. Or they have this wonky looking one wonky looking store, and you think that you can cut it in half and you can turn it into 2 stores. And if you cut it in half and turn it into 2 stores, you now have the capacity to charge more for the building because you have more rental spots, right? The same thing with commercial real estate as it is for farming. Everybody if you learn how to do something, you can do it for whatever aspect of the market you want. It's not just farming. If you want to go and do it as a farmer, you can do it as a farmer. If you want to do it as a commercial real estate investor, you can go and do it as a commercial real estate investor. If you want to do it as a residential real estate investor, you can go and do it as a residential real estate investor. If you want to do it by being a restaurant, a service industry owner, you want to be like in the restaurant or the hotel business, you can do it by being in the restaurant or the hotel business. It does not matter what business you are in. Everybody is doing the exact same thing, more or less. Everybody is doing the exact same thing. And I'm not going to use farming as an example. I'm going to use a commercial real estate example. And this is also what I mean by I did not learn my business, from watching just farmers. I watched a lot of people. I watched people in the stock market business. I watched people in the commercial real estate business. I watched people in the residential real estate business, etc., as the service business, etc., right? I mean, I did not learn how to run a farm business by watching just farmers. I watched, and I figured that it's going to be the same way for y'all. And and the thing about me is that I 100% understand that I would not have gotten to be this rich if the people did not stand up and say something. I would not have learned this. I would not have been able to figure this out on my own. I would not have made it to such an extreme degree on my own. I would not have. The reason that I fully understand that if the people did not, the people that I learned from, did not stand up and say something and essentially teach the world what they were doing, I would not have been able to figure this out on my own. I learned this by watching other people. I learned this by watching commercial real estate investors, residential real estate investors, service business owners, whatever it may be. I learned it by the stock market, business acquisition. I learned this stuff by watching them. And so, but in terms of the commercial real estate business, let's say you find a big building and you say, oh, it's $10 million, and I legit, or $1 million, let's say it's just $10 million, and you say, you know what, I legitimately believe that if you gave me I took a look at the loan terms, and the loan terms are A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, right? I mean, they want let's just say something ridiculous number, 10%. They want 10% interest, and they want they want whatever, right? The bank wants 20% down. The bank wants 20% down and a 10% interest, right? But you show up at this building and you take a look at that, and they want 10% down. So you say they want $2 million. But I'm, if the numbers are too extreme, I mean, okay, let's actually go to a different bit. Let's go to a different because a $10 million building would be like a freaking Walmart, right? I mean, and people, I mean, you're gonna freak out if I tell I don't even know what a $10 million building looks like. I mean, it's probably like something like a Walmart or a Target. And so let's talk about residential real estate instead, right? Let's say you go and you find yourself a home. And the home, it's brand new, and it's small, but it's brand new, right? It's small, but it's brand new, and they want, let's say, 140 grand for it. And you go and you talk to the banker, and you say, there's this home over here, and I want to buy it. It's $140,000, and what will it cost for me to buy this home, right? What will it cost for me to buy this home? And the banker tells you, well, you're gonna have to put 3.5% down. You're going to have a down payment of about $10,000. You're going to need to have about $7,500, $10,000. And the loan, after everything is considered, the private mortgage insurance, the property tax, everything, the private mortgage insurance, the property tax, everything, the principal and the interest. And when you consider it all, and after you put your 3.5% down, it's going to cost you $1,500 a month. And if you want to buy this brand new home, it's going to cost you $1,500 a month, and you're going to need to give me 10 grand. And so you walk away from that, and you say, okay, thank you, banker. Thank you for the information, and I will think about it. And so you go back home that evening, and you take a look at it, and you say, if you put, if I legitimately had bought this home, for whatever reason, right? But there's many aspects of business. If we're going to talk about the cash flow side of things, and then you got to talk about the equity side of things, and then you could collateralize your equity. But if we're going to talk about just straight cash flow, let's say you got a home, right? You got a home, and you're like, I can let's say let's say that you do have a 20% down payment, and it's 140 grand. So you say I got $28,000, and I'm just going to give the banker the $28,000. And that will reduce, take the private mortgage insurance off of my loan, right? I don't have to worry about the private mortgage insurance anymore. And here's the thing about collateralizing equity. Because you got to understand that even when it comes to cattle, like, it does not matter what I'm talking about. This was a very long process. Like, it does not matter what I'm talking about. Like, if you listen to me talk about real estate, if you listen to me talk about cattle, if you listen to me talk about business, there's a reason why I talk like this, right? I mean, I'm not the only person talking like this. If you want to learn how to do something like this, then go and watch another rich person, right? I mean, they're rich for a reason. If you're poor, there's a reason you're poor. Go and watch a different rich person, and they're all gonna more or less be saying the exact same thing, right? And so, I mean, okay, so here's the thing, is that you really want to be invested in something. It does not matter what it is. And if you have an equitable investment, and an equitable investment essentially means that you are not the only person that believes it is valuable. Let's say you go and you buy a piece of land. You go and buy a piece of land, and it has a home on it, and you buy that home, and you buy the land, and it costs you, let's say the appraisal value of the property comes in at 140 grand, and so you take a loan to buy the property, right? You take a loan to buy the property, and you start making payments on the property, and let's say after 3 years, after 3 or 4 years, you have about $30,000 worth of equity on the property, because you really worked at it, and you said, you know what, every single month I'm gonna make an extra $250 payment on my property. Every single month I'm going to make an extra $250 or $350 payment on my property. And so after about 5 years, let's say you have about 30 grand equity in your property. You know, you really got after it, and you put yourself on an upwards trajectory. You said, you know, I'm not going to make minimum payments on the property. I'm not going to make minimum payments on the property because that's a bad idea. I want to put myself on an upwards trajectory, and how am I objectively going to accomplish this? What kind of a plan can I make for myself to accomplish this? And so you buy this $140,000 property, and you say, you know what, every single month I'm going to make an extra $350 payment towards the principal, right? I'm going to make an extra $350 payment towards the principal. And so you make an extra $350 payment towards the principal, and after, let's say, about 5 years, you have about 20-30 grand. You have about 20-30 grand in the equity of your home, right? You've paid off about 25% of your home, 20% of your home. You've paid off about 25% of your home. And so you go to the bank and you say, hey banker, you know, I have this home and I've been making payments on it for the last 5 years. You know, and I've been making additional payments on it. I want you to collateralize my property for a line of credit. And but let's say before you do this, you go and you find another $140,000 home, right? You find another $140,000 home, and it's got a renter in it, and you're like, you know, it's a long-term renter. It's a long-term renter. You've, you know, or let's say you find a fourplex or whatever it is that you want to do. You know, you find a fourplex and you go, oh, well, if I live in this fourplex and I rent out the other three, then the rent from the other three will pay for the mortgage, and I can essentially live here for free, or whatever it is that you want to do in the residential. You know, there are a lot of ways that you can make money, right? The residential, you know, the residential real estate, there are a lot of different ways you can make money. In farming, there's a lot of different ways you can make money. In the commercial real estate business, there's a lot, you know, there's a lot of different ways to make money. America is a gold mine. You are legitimately surrounded by money. You should not be having problems making money in America. If you are having problems making money in America, it's a very, very good sign that you are kind of a moron. You know, how are you having problems making money in the richest country on the entire freaking planet? Right? I mean, I don't get it. And so, you know, I mean, and then you come up with, you know, let's say you go and you find another $140,000 property, and it has a long-term renter in it. The renter's been in that property for like 10 years, and you know, and the renter's been in the property for 10 years, and they're paying, let's say, a set amount of money. They're paying, you know, $1,500 a month. And so you realize that you have $30,000 worth of equity in your home, and then you go and you take a look at this property, and this renter is paying $1,500 a month. And you go and you talk to the banker and you say, you know, I would like to collateralize my property, because if you know, or whatever it is, or I mean, you could even be in a situation where you rent out the home that you live in, because if you've paid off 20 to 25% of your home, you no longer pay private mortgage insurance. And if you think that you can get $1,600, $1,500 a month for your home, and the private mortgage insurance being gone off your loan, you know, drops your monthly payment to like you know, $1,250 a month. If you rented out your home, you know, you would be building equity in your home, and you would also be generating an extra $350 a month. There are a lot of different ways to make money. You know, nothing's easy, and you know, but you know, okay, but here's the thing. Okay, I'm going to talk about what is going on with me, and how am I structuring my deal. And understand that you can do this with any aspect of the market. It's not just farming. You know, I just happen to be a farmer, right? I just happen to be a farmer. You can do this in the residential real estate. You can do this in commercial real estate. You can do this in retail. You can do this in whatever you want. And I'm going to tell you why I am structuring the deal that I am, and why am I doing it this way. And so me right now, the big thing about me is that I'm asking the owner how much money do they want for an option contract, and what is an option contract. I will tell you what an option contract is. Me as the buyer, if I ask the seller for an option contract, I am essentially asking to put the property under contract for a set amount of money. And that set amount of money, if I decide to go through with the purchase of the property at the end of the option contract, or sometime between the beginning date and the ending date of the option contract, sometime between then or at the end of the option contract, if I decide to go through with the purchase of the property, you know, if I decide to go through with the purchase of the property, the price of the option contract will be deducted from the listing price, from the price that we have set for the purchase of the property. And so me as a buyer, when I ask the seller for an option contract, what I'm telling them is you are essentially not able to sell the property to anybody else anymore. The property is under contract by me. And I essentially am going to pay for I'm going to pay for the property sometime between now and the end of the option contract. And if I do not pay for the property between now and the end of the option contract, you get to keep the money that I put up for the option contract. And so this is what I mean by I am asking the seller, how much money do you want for the option contract? Just tell me. Just tell me. I don't really care. You know, how much money do you want? And essentially it's essentially they are going to ask me for enough money to make them believe, believe that I am going to go through with the purchase of the property. Because if I do not go through with the purchase of the property, they will get to keep my option money. And so if I put up, like, let's say I put up 25 grand, let's say, you know, if you put up 25, this is what I mean by money talks. You know, money talks and nonsense walks. You know, you don't want to be in a situation where you are just offering up a whole bunch of BS. You don't want to be in a situation where all you have to offer is nonsense. Money talks. And so what am I doing with the real estate business, with the real estate contract right now? What am I telling the owner? I'm essentially just telling the owner, you know, give me your price. Tell me how much you want for the option contract. And as long as it is not something ridiculous, like even if it's like 20 grand, right? If it's 20 grand, sure, 20 grand, I can do that, right? Why not? If $20,000 will make you believe, will legitimately, make you believe that I will go through with the purchase of the property, sure, why not? I will just give you the 20 grand. You can have the 20 grand. I want the option contract. And so now that the property is under an option contract for 1 year, sometime between the beginning date of that option contract and the ending date of the option contract, I will need to have purchased the property or I will lose my 20 grand. So that is the long story short. So why am I doing it like this? Because if I get put on the field, and if I get put on the field today, if I put the property under contract right now and I have a 1 year option term, if I have a 1 year option term, I will start farming that property within 2 seconds of me being there. Legitimately, I will be farming balls to the wall. You know, I will legitimately be farming like you would not believe. I will start making money within 2 seconds of me being on that property. I will take a look at it and I will, I'll plow the field, I'll spray the grass, whatever I need to do. And I will finance the fence and the well. I will finance a fence in the well. I will tell the fence builder, hey, I need you out here as soon as possible. And if you don't want the job, I'm going to go and get somebody else. I need you out here as soon as possible, like within the next 2 weeks, right? You don't want a contractor who's just going to show up, because if they just show up, I mean, that's not good, right? I mean, you want somebody who's busy, right? You want somebody, if they say, oh yeah, I can show up tomorrow, you don't want that person. Right, like when I call my contractor, he's like, "Oh yeah, man. Right now I'm in freaking Oklahoma, or right now I'm in, I'm 5 hours away. I'm building a giant building. I'm building a giant building right now. I'm two states away building a massive building. Hey, okay, put me on your schedule, right? Because for me to plant grass and for me to grow the grass to a degree that I can actually, feed cattle on, it's going to take me about a month, right? There's no reason for me to have a contractor on the property tomorrow. As long as the fence is done within the next month, it won't matter, right? Because I can't put cattle on the grass anyway. And so on that first month, my big plan is to plant the grass, get the fence built, drill the well. How am I going to do that? I'm going to finance it. And if I finance it over, like, let's say a 10-year term, it's going to be like $250 a month. For me to build a fence on the property and drill a well, it's going to cost like $250 a month. And so I built the fence, I drilled the well, I paid the $250 a month, and let's say I even financed the $20,000 option contract. And so let's say all in, I'm in for about $400 a month, right? For me to start farming 50 acres, and I'm already on this 10-acre field, I already make about $60,000 a year. So if you put me on a 50-acre field, the chances are I'm going to make more money. I will legitimately start farming balls to the wall within 2 seconds. Farming is legitimately what I do all the time, 24/7. I'm going to farm until I'm 150 years old, right? Legitimately, I'm gonna drop dead in the middle of my field when I'm 150 years old. I'm being dead serious with you. You know, like I'm not saying this to, you know, whatever, right? I'm not getting a kick out of it. I'm being dead serious with you. Farming is what I do, right? And so if I show up on your property and it's under contract for me, I will start farming the property like within 2 seconds. I will start making money. And so right now, so think about it like this. This is a way for you to think about it. I started the option contract, right? I started the option contract. I financed the option contract, whatever, the 20 grand. I financed it. And let's say for me to build a well and drill a well and build a fence, let's say it cost me $250 a month. So that's about $450. Let's just say $500 a month. Let's say for me to get started on this 50-acre field, it's going to cost about $500 a month. For that $500 a month, I have now expanded my cash flow opportunity drastically. What do I mean by cash flow opportunity? On a 10-acre field right now, I'm making about $60,000 a year. If I get a 50-acre field, chances are I will make more money, right? I will make more money. Let's just logically put things together. I make about $60,000 a year on a 10-acre field. If you put me on a 50-acre field, logically, I will make more money. If you put me on a field tomorrow, within 2 seconds, I will be farming balls to the wall. And I will be all in $500 a month for that first year. For that first year while the option contract is in play, I will be all in $500 a month. And during that year, I will make money on that field. And when I make money on the field, I will take the money that I have made to the banker and I will show them the money. Hey, I have this property under an option contract right now, and I am already cash flowing. I'm already producing net positive return. Will you finance my deal? That is a very good argument. That is a very good deal for the banker, because I've already told you the banker is not there to hold on to your money. Banks make money by lending out money and collecting interest. That is how banks make money. They want to give you the loan. Not you, because you're poor, but if you are a good candidate, they want to give good candidates loans. You know, they want to give the good candidates loans. They want to. That is how they make money. Because if they lend out the money, they will collect interest on that money. And when they collect interest on the money, that is how banks make money. And so if you are a good candidate, they will want to give you money hand over fist. You can legitimately borrow $500,000 from the bank right now for like $2 grand a month. And how do you do that, right? You make the money first. You make them. You're going to hear me say this all the time. You make the money first. You put the property under an option contract. You get out there, you start making money. And once you start making money, you take that money to the banker and ask them to finance your deal. That is how you do it. Don't you know, the $500 a month at this point has become negligible money. The $500 a month that it's going to cost you to do this is negligible money. You don't even worry about the $500 a month anymore. You know, realistically, I will make something like $20,000 to $25,000 a month of take-home pay, if when I do this. Somewhere between, I would just say, let's just lowball myself. I will make about $20,000 a month. That's how much money I will be bringing home every month. Net pay, not gross cash flow. I'm talking about net income. As long as I go out and do this, right? And that's why I'm so adamant about getting this deal done. And if this deal is not going to work, I need to know that the deal is not going to work so I can make an offer on a different property. I don't really care, there are a lot of properties out there. And I've already told you, okay, here's the thing. Once you start getting towards the high end of the market, like you are actually looking for somebody with money, the more money that we are talking about, the less people that you can work with. Like if you are talking about a field out in the middle of nowhere, like, you legitimately have to drive like an hour away from the city. You have to go like, this field is almost an hour away from the city. The city population is like 1,500 people. Genuinely, the population of the entire city is about 1,500 people. Nobody's out there. Who are you going to, who out here is going to buy your field? Right? I mean, genuinely. If you go 1 hour away from Dallas, it is like nothing. There is nothing out there. And this is what I mean by, if you are looking for a piece of property, you do not want to buy it. You don't want to be looking at property that is like around the city. You want to go like an hour away. If you go an hour away, the cost of land plummets. And you know, like around here in this area, the closer you go to Louisiana, or the closer you go to Arkansas, or the closer, even if you go into Oklahoma, Oklahoma's not very far away. The closer you get away from, the closer you get to those 3 states, the cheaper the land becomes. And I'm talking about like dirt cheap land. Like you can buy 1 acre for like $4 grand. You can genuinely go and buy a 75-acre field of good farmland, prime farmland, for like $1,000 a month. That is how cheap the land becomes. But you are going to have to drive like 2 hours away from Dallas into the middle of nowhere. But me, I'm going about an hour away from Dallas. I'm looking at land that is about an hour away from Dallas. And even then, land is almost dirt cheap. It's like $6,000 an acre. $7,000 an acre. If you want to buy a 50-acre field, it's going to cost you about $1,200, $1,400 a month if you financed it from the bank right off the get-go. Land is dirt cheap. You know, in this area, land is dirt cheap. If you know... Land is very, you know, I can go to a different, I can go and buy land anywhere that I want. If one owner says that they don't want to sell the land, just tell me that the deal's not going to work, and I will go and make an offer on a different property. I don't care. Just tell me that you don't want the offer, and if you don't want the offer, I'll just go to a different property. I really don't mind. There are properties all over the place that I can buy. And the offer is going to be the exact same. The offer will be the exact same. I want a 1-year option contract. You can give me your price. How much do you want for the option contract? Give me the 1-year option contract, right? Why do I want the 1-year option contract? Because if I take the 1-year option contract, I build a fence, I drill a well, and I plant grass, I'm all in for about $500 a month. All in, I'm in about $500 a month, and I can just focus on running my cattle. And if I run my cattle, let's say here on this 10-acre field, I run about somewhere between 40 and 50 cattle per 10 acres, right? I run about 4 to 5 animals an acre. If you put me on a 50-acre field, and I run about 2.5 lot of animals a year, so it's about 100 to 125 animals a year. If you put me on a 50-acre field, I could probably run like on a conservative estimate, I would run like 400 animals a year on a conservative estimate. If I ran them, let's say 150 at a time, and I ran 2.5 lot a year, I would be running like 400 animals a year, on a conservative estimate. And this property also has irrigation water. This property also has a well. And so that's also one of the big reasons why I want to dig a well so bad, is so that I can irrigate a portion of the field, and so I can essentially grow grass 24/7. I can grow grass 365 days a year. And having irrigation water here in Texas is very rare. A lot of people do not have irrigation water here. I was very surprised when they told me that there is irrigation water here, and I was driving around the neighborhood and people were blasting irrigation pivots. I was very surprised. I did not, that was actually my second time ever seeing an irrigation pivot in Central Texas. Legitimately, that is how rare it is. You don't see irrigation pivots around here. Most people do not have groundwater. But this farm has groundwater, and so if I drill a well, I can irrigate a portion of the field. I can essentially grow grass 365 days a year. And if you put me on this field, I would on a conservative estimate, I would say that I'm gonna run 350 to 400 animals a year. And if let's say let's say I cut my numbers back and I only run 100 animals a year here, right? I only run 100 animals a year here. I'm running 500 animals a year. And even if I do horribly bad, horribly bad, if I only make $500 an animal, $400 an animal, I'm still making like $200,000 to $250,000 a year, right? Like, even if I lowball the crap out of myself, if I completely lowball myself, I will be bringing home about $200,000 to $240,000 a year, right? And so, when I put so that's the big idea of the real estate deal. If you want to know why I am structuring my deal like this, this is why. I'm putting an option contract on the property for a price that is set by the owner, largely set by the owner, as long as it is not something ridiculous. If they give me that 1-year option contract, And for me to go on that field and finance the fence and drill the well, I will be all in about $500 a month. I will be all in about $500 a month, and I can essentially just take my animals and drop them off at the field. I can drop them off at the field, have them eat grass, and once they eat enough grass to be about 800 pounds, I can load them up and take them to the sale barn and sell them then. And I can just precondition animals here. I can just precondition animals here as the primary use of this farm. I'll just use it as a preconditioning pen. And if I do that, if I do that, I will start cash flowing the property very rapidly. I will start producing income on that property very rapidly. And once I start producing income on that property, I will take the income that I'm generating on that property to the banker. And I will say, I want you to finance my deal. My deal is already under contract. I put it under an option. Let's say I have and I'll just tell the banker, hey, I got about 6 months left on this option, or I got about 6 months left on this option contract, or I got about 5 months left on this option contract, whatever it may be, and I want you to finance my deal, and I'm already making money. Here's the proof, right? And I'll show them the money. At that point, they will either finance me the money, or if they don't, and let's say I have even if it's like a situation where, I will finance the deal one way or another, I will do it. If one banker says that they won't do it, I'll go to a different banker. If the other banker says they won't do it, then I'll go to a different banker. If all the bankers are saying they won't do it, then I will take a seller finance on it. But here's the thing. If the banker is telling you that they don't want to finance your deal, that is a very, very big red flag. That is a very big indicator that you should take a look at what you're doing. Because if the banks don't want to give you money, that is a very, that's like a warning indicator. Banks want to give you the money. The bank, they want to give you the money because at the end of the day, they make their money by collecting interest on the money that they lend you. They want to give you the money. But if they are telling you that they are not going to give you the money, and I'm not saying that the banker's your buddy pal pal, because they're not, right? The banker's a prick just like everybody else. All right, the banker is more or less just like everybody else, unless you are at a very high-end bank. And if you are at a very high-end bank, and there is still a chance that the banker's a prick too. And so, but when you go to the bank, you're not there to be buddy pal pals. I've already said this. You're not there to be buddy pal pals. The only thing you are there to do is the only reason you show up at the bank is for the banker to clear your loan. That's it. You want them to give you the money. And at the end of the day, deep down, the banker wants to give you the money, because if they give you the money, then they will collect interest on the money. And when they collect interest on the money, they will get paid. So if the banker's not willing to give you the money, that is a very, very, very bad sign. You don't want to be in you should take a look at what you're doing. Right? I mean, you might be in a situation where you are about to wreck yourself. I mean, like, seriously wreck yourself. Because here's the thing, if you go into debt for something and you fail, you will legitimately wreck yourself. I mean, you are screwed forever. I mean, most people cannot recover from going, $250,000 into debt. You cannot recover from that. And so, when I'm structuring my deal, I'm essentially saying I want to buy an option contract from you. Just tell me what you want for the option contract. You want 20 grand? Sure, I'll give you 20 grand. Let me have the option contract, right? I put the property under an option contract for 1 year. During that 1 year, I will start cash flowing the property. And once I have started cash flowing the property, I will take the cash flow that I've generated on the property to the banker, and I will show the banker the money that I am making, and then ask the banker to finance my deal. That is the big plan. That is what I am doing. And for me to do this, I'm going to be at risk for about $500 a month. For me to do this is legitimately maybe, it's going to be about $500 a month. That is how much money I need for me to go and do this. About $500 a month. And so when I say these things, I'm not the only person that can do this. You can also go and do it. And if the person who, let's say you find a piece of property and they say that they don't want to do this deal with you, then go and find a different property. Go and take a look around and find a different property and just make another offer, right? Just keep making offers until somebody takes your offer, right? And the offer is the same. How much do you want for an option contract? Give me a 1 year option contract. You give me the 1 year option contract. The moment you get on that field, but most of you are not, and I'm not saying this to get a kick out of it. A lot of you don't understand that farming at this level is almost impossible. If you actually want to go and farm at this level, you won't be able to do it. I mean, unless you legitimately work like 24 hours a day for the next 15 years of your life, and most of you, you're in a situation where you are stuck the way you are. Most of you are. If you turned on a dime tomorrow, it would be a miracle. Being poor is like being on drugs. Like if you found a drug addict who legitimately turned on a dime tomorrow and they gave up drugs and they actually managed to do it, that would be a miracle. It would not be normal. I've seen a lot of drug addicts die. I'm telling you, you're gonna die that way. Okay, but this is a very good example. Like I've seen all sorts of drug addicts. Like I've seen one. I remember one guy. He used to smoke a whole bunch of meth, and he would buy razors from our store. And he would cut his face open. He would just buy the razors and start cutting his face open. He would be bleeding all over the place. I was actually like, maybe I should stop selling this guy razors, right? I mean, because I don't, but he was smoking a whole bunch of meth. And he would smoke meth, and then he would just cut his face open, and he would be bleeding everywhere. And I told him that he couldn't come into the store anymore because he was going to get blood over. So, like I don't, a lot of these meth addicts and stuff like that, and like a lot of these drug addicts, I mean, they might have some kind of a blood-borne illness, right? They might have some kind of a, an illness that is like legitimately, it is in their blood, and if I come into contact with their blood, I could get it too, right? Like hepatitis, very good example, right? I'm pretty sure hepatitis is blood-borne, and he would buy these razors and cut his face open, and and he would cut his face open all over the place. He would just be like, it would almost look like a horror movie. Like he would be bleeding all over. I mean, like just down to his shirt and everywhere, right? But just bleeding all over, right? Like if he came up to me and he told me that he was giving up drugs, I would be very happy for him. But if he actually gave up drugs, that would be a miracle. And this is what I mean by once you're poor, being poor is like being on drugs. If you're poor, if you came up to me and you told me that you were genuinely, like you were genuinely not going to be poor tomorrow, I would be very happy for you. But if you actually managed to do it, it would be a miracle. And this is what I mean. I've seen a lot of drug addicts die. And this is what I mean by you are going to die that way. If you are, if you actually turned on a dime tomorrow, it would be a miracle. And if you woke up tomorrow and you said, I'm not going to be poor anymore. I'm not going to be poor anymore. I'm dead serious. I'm not going to be poor anymore. I would be very happy for you. But if you actually turned on a dime like that, it would be a miracle. And it's like being on drugs. And by default, 6 to 7, if there are 500 of you watching this video, 350 of you probably don't even have $1,000 in your bank account. If you legitimately turned on a dime tomorrow and actually, did well for yourself, I would be very happy for you. But chances are you're not going to be able to do it. You are a massive pile of problems. But and I'm not saying that you should give up on yourself. But being poor is like being on drugs. If you are poor, maybe it's a good time to admit to yourself you're poor. It's like being on drugs, right? It's a good time to admit that you're on drugs, and it's also a good time to admit that it's not a good thing, right? And then find some objectively upwards direction to put yourself on. Put yourself on an upwards trajectory one way or another, right? And if you are dead set about doing this as a farmer, I've already told you what I recommend. I've already told you what I recommend. I would not start in the cattle business. I would start in the hay business. Because if you get into the hay business, you're really not at risk for much of anything at all. And you can even find a lease property. You can find a lease property, and they will lease you the property for like $50 an acre a year. You can go and you can borrow. You can lease a 20-acre field for like $1,000 a year. And if they won't give it to you for $1,000 a year, then offer $2,000, right? And so. But I would get into the hay business. If you are dead set on doing this as a farmer, and you got to understand that you can do this in any aspect of the market. You do not have to become a farmer to do this. You could do this in the residential real estate business. You could do this in the commercial real estate business. You could do this in any business that you want. You could put up an option contract for a year on a residential property. But if you really wanted to, you could do that too, right? And so, Commercial real estate, you could do that. I mean, it doesn't matter what we're talking about, what kind of property you're talking about. The option contract is the same. The option contract is just a contract that you as the buyer are purchasing from the seller for a set amount of money to put the property under contract. That's it. You are putting the property under contract, and during the beginning of the option period and by the end of the option period, you will, by the end of the option period or sometime in between, you will need to have financed the property. That's all you're doing. That's all an option contract is. And so if you are dead set on doing this as a farmer, you are going to attempt to be a farmer, that you are dead set on doing it, I would get in the hay business first. I would get in the hay business. If you grow hay, let's say you plant a field of hay, and you're like, okay, my hay is starting to develop a flag leaf, right? I went on the internet and I looked it up. I have this cultivar of grass that I'm growing. I'm growing a winter wheat grass. And I looked up this paper, and the paper is saying that sometime between this many growing day degree hours and that many growing day degree hours, the grass will begin to develop a flag leaf, and then you take a look at your weather and you say, okay, well, it's 75 degrees in the afternoon right now and about 55 degrees in the evening. So, I'm at essentially maximum growing day degree hour accumulation. And so if I take the growing day degree hour accumulation that I have right now and overlay that with the information collected on these 5 papers, then I can find that my grass is going to be at somewhat of an optimal digestibility and feed quality. I can feed it to the animals free choice. I can essentially just put my cattle out on it and they won't have any problems if I feed them at somewhere between the 40-day and the 65-day period, right? You go and you collect some information. It only takes you about half an hour. You've planted your grass. You go on the internet, you look it up. It takes you about half an hour, and you say, okay, well, if I put this much fertilizer on my grass, and I have this many growing day degree hours, then somewhere between the 40 and 65-day period, I can put my animals out on the grass, and I don't have to worry about the grass being too digestible or anything like that, the grass being too high in protein. And I can just put my cattle out on it. And if I put let's say, I put a 20-acre field under an option contract, and let's say you run your numbers and you say, oh, well, for me to finance this property, it's going to cost about $1,000 a month. And if I want the banker to finance this property 100%, then I need to produce about 3.5 to 5 times more money. And so if I'm going to make, if I want the banker to essentially just okay my loan right off the bat, if it's going to cost me $1,000 a month to pay the banker, I'm going to need to make somewhere between $3,500 and $5,000 a month, right? I'm going to make somewhere between $3,500 and $5,000 a month. That's how much money I need to make on this field for me to just essentially take the money that I'm making on this field to the banker and have the banker finance the deal with the money that is being generated by the property, right? And you run these numbers, you come up with a plan, you come up with a plan for yourself, you take a look at it, you go, this is an objectively correct plan, this is a good plan, and I'm moving forward with this plan, and then you start going after it, and then you do or die, you have to find a way to make money. You either do it or you die trying. That's it. And if you are dead set on doing this as a farmer, plant some hay. You're at risk for almost nothing. And when your hay comes in, if you genuinely want to run cattle, then you can put cattle on the field right then, and you can consider and then during that time period, you can go on the internet and you can look up, how do I identify 1 to 1.5 type animals. Or if you want to take what I'm saying and you just want to go with it, I mean, the 4 major breeds of animals in this area are the Angus, the Hereford, the Brahma, and the Charolais. And if you see an animal and you don't recognize what it is, just don't buy it. Then you got yourself a 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame animal, and you take a look at your numbers and you take the formula that I've given you, or if you have an objectively better formula, then use your formula. You take the feeder cattle number, you deduct 10%, and then you cut that number in half. You go to the sale barn, you find animals for that price, 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame animals, and then you bring them home and you put them on your grass, and you say, okay, if I put this many animals on my grass, I will make about if I lowball the crap out of myself, I will still make about $3,500 a month. Then you're good to go. The banker will finance the property with the money that you are making on the property. And you can make the money while you are under an option contract. That is what I'm doing. That is what I'm doing right now. As of right this moment, as of today, that is how I am structuring my real estate deal. I want an option contract. I'm offering listing price. I will pay your price. The money that you want, I will give it to you. The listing price, sure, I don't want any discounts. I will give you the listing price, and I will even more or less give you the money that you want for your option contract. But I want a 1-year option. And during that 1-year option, I am going to produce cash flow on the property, and then use the cash flow that I am producing on the property to clear the financing that I need for the property. That's it. I am doing that right now. As of today, that is to a fine detail. That is what I'm doing. And so if you want to, and this is objectively just straightforward information, you can do with it as you want. But that is what I am doing right now. But that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.